Man, I really don't want to shoot this video, but I feel like I have to. If you ever had someone very supportive in your life, someone so nurturing in your life, and they're not in your life anymore, I'm so sorry. I know how tough it is. I know how lonely it can be. It's not easy doing things like no contact, spending time sitting in your feelings, but through this relationship sabbatical of intentionally not being in a relationship, spending time by myself, even on my 35th birthday, I wanted to share some advice that has really helped me get through these hard times and just humanize the situation a little bit more. So let's jump into it. So the most common advice that we hear about relationships is that time heals all wounds. What I realize is half this advice that we hear is just bull. Over the last 2 years, I haven't dated, I haven't hooked up or anything like that. I intentionally went monk mode, just focused on my business, focused on my purpose, and tried to build a relationship with myself. I've had women that wanted to hook up, and I've had to make the difficult decision of saying no. It doesn't happen that often, and it's tough because as a man, for me, it's a very lonely path. Ever since I moved out here to Vegas, ever since I've been more intentional about my business, intentional about my YouTube channel, intentional about the life I really want to create, it's been harder than ever. But it's a very lonely feeling just knowing that I don't have that feminine energy in my life. I just feel like I'm putting all this work in. I'm never seen. I'm the one always trying to serve others, be the strong one for other people. When I say this out loud, it sounds kind of stupid, right? Like, why would you want to do something like that? What I found was that I would end up in these really insecure relationships, whether it was me being the avoidant type or I would seek other avoidant partners like myself. I've been in relationships where I've been cheated on. I've been in relationships where I felt straight up abandoned. So let's jump into it. Breakups are deaths with intimate relationships. One of the things I felt like really stupid about was I would have these late night panic attacks or these suffocation attacks or these bouts of loneliness. I would feel oftentimes this sadness about my exes and all these thoughts about like, I could have done this to save the relationship. You should have been more grateful when you had that person in your life. And the truth is, even if it's 2, 3, even 5 years later, you're not crazy for thinking these thoughts. And I'm probably one of the first people to say this. Something that we don't realize is that when we go things like no contact, or we go from talking to our partner every single day to cold turkey, this is a death. And we don't realize that breakups are deaths with intimate relationships. See, I dated this girl back in LA, and she was one of the most nurturing people for me. She would be the type to plan my birthday parties with all my friends. She was the type to remember my dad's death anniversary and just always get me out of the house. And most importantly, she supported my goal of being an entrepreneur. She was that nurturing energy that I always needed. Something I noticed when I spent a lot of time alone was that I would have these feelings of sadness, of missing the relationship that was so important in my life. I think about the thoughts of how I spent so many years with the girl I was with in LA. And now that I'm by myself a lot of the time, I would say like, unless I'm at jujitsu, unless I'm meeting up with my friend, I'm always alone. And I would feel sad about this. And I'd be like, dude, I feel so stupid for being not over a relationship that was 3 years ago. And something that I didn't realize until I reflected on it more is that breakups are deaths for intimate relationships. Recently, I saw this post by the millennial therapist. She wrote, just because a relationship ends, it doesn't mean 1, that the relationship was meaningless, 2, you won't miss a person, 3, that being apart is easy, 4, that you don't love them. It's easy to beat ourselves up over these romantic relationships, but something I realized more recently is I noticed that I had these same feelings when dad died. When dad died, I was really sad at first. Like all these small things like, hey, how many in your party when we went out to dinner? It was really hard knowing that life would just be my brother, my mom, and myself every single time we went out to eat. I remember when we took dad off life support, how hard that the realization that would be the last time I would ever see my father alive. And when we walked into the funeral home, I remember how hard that decision was, just picking out his casket. And it was really, really hard, like going through all the memories of cleaning out his room and seeing things that I created back in kindergarten still in the room. I think it was during this time where I really struggled with my mental health. I had such a turbulent relationship with my dad, and I had to navigate the world of mental health, everything through therapy, journaling. I prioritized self-care, and like I said, I even went to therapy for the first time, which is, not too long ago. It was very, very taboo, especially in Asian families. When I think about dad, even to this day, I don't think there's ever getting over it. And when we have breakups, we have this idea that getting over it is this one and done idea. But what I realize is, just like how no longer I talk to my dad, I no longer talk to those exes who are no longer part of my life. And I've really learned how to practice acceptance over that end. Don't get me wrong, I don't obsess over the breakups that I went through or obsess over my dad's death like when it first happened. But I do have these moments where I'm just really, really fearful of like, am I gonna die alone? Will anyone ever love me again? Can anyone ever love me again too? And something I learned through not only my dad's experience, but even through my romantic relationships, is that healing isn't linear. It's okay to feel sad about those past relationships, even though a lot of time has passed. I think about my first relationship when I was cheated on, and how that makes me kind of like looking at that younger version of myself. It makes me feel very, very sad that someone could do something like that, and how that was the first time I opened up my heart, and it bit me in the ass. A part of me sometimes when I look back at that, I'm like, I'm so foolish. I should have done all these things. I regret all these things. But something that has helped me was like not beating myself up feeling a certain way, and just noticing like why I feel a certain way. What is causing this feeling? What about this upsets me? And when I notice myself feeling like, when I think about my dad, I try to appreciate and be grateful for the moments I did have with that person, and just be grateful that I got a chance to even experience it. Like during a certain period of my life, I was actually really, really in love. A quote that has really helped me out a lot to process these feelings is by Neil Strauss. It's, "We have this idea that love is supposed to last forever, but love isn't like that. It's a free-flowing energy that comes and goes when it pleases. Sometimes it stays for life, other times it stays for a second, a day, a month, or a year. So don't fear love when it comes simply because it makes you vulnerable, but don't be surprised when it leaves either. Just be glad that you had the opportunity to experience it." Neil Strauss. But as much as we're grateful and appreciative of a certain relationship in our life, how do we let go of this pain? And it brings me to the second point. I wrote this: suffering is holding on to the illusion of what could have been. There's this one moment in LA with my ex. I remember it was a surprise birthday party when I came back. It was when I turned 30. She told me it would be like it was someone else's birthday party. And really, it turns out all my friends flew out just for me. She gathered all my LA friends to just surprise me at this karaoke spot. And it was probably one of the most thoughtful things that someone has done for me in the past, even to this day. It's so funny because I remember getting into a major fight before going to a karaoke thing with this girl. When she revealed the surprise, I remember looking at her in the eyes and just feeling so appreciative that I had someone so loving in my life. When the night was ending, right before we went to bed, I remember staring into her eyes and just reminiscing about like, no matter how much of a failure I feel like inside, someone cares about me this deeply. She cares about me. I can't tell you how much it meant to me to have someone so loving, so supportive during that lowest time in my life. At the time, I just left pharmacy. My income literally went to zero, and I had this idea of a YouTube channel. I had this idea of wanting to start a business, but I had zero idea of what I was doing. I remember every single morning I would just feel so stressed, look at the mirror and just be like, I need to figure this out. And here I had this supportive partner who, regardless if I was like a winner or a loser, regardless of how it felt, she looked at me the same. She looked at me as a person that couldn't do wrong. And if you ever experience this person in your life, someone so nurturing, and you lost it, I'm very sorry, because I know how painful this can be. And still to this day, like, it's painful knowing that I had that and didn't appreciate it at the time. Not gonna lie, there were really bad times. When it was really, really bad, it was bad. I was the avoidant attachment style, so someone who, like, in stressful situations would flight. And whenever I would want to be alone by myself, just run away from the situation, she would want to cling harder, and she was the anxious type. I remember how suffocated I felt. She wanted to be with me 24/7. And I remember how distracted I felt throughout my goals. To be honest, I feel like a part of me just took it out on her. I remember this not a moment I'm very proud of, but in my LA apartment, I was trying to figure out like my inbound closing, like business and stuff. I literally told her she needed to leave because I needed to be by myself and focus on my you know, it's easy to reflect on these moments now, to like look at myself as like, dude, you're a complete asshole. And I don't doubt it, I probably was a complete asshole given the circumstances. And it's easy for me to romanticize her and just put her in this light, put her on this pedestal that, you know, she did all this amazing stuff for me, which she did too. But to be honest, as much as I wish that I had someone in my life these days, she isn't the same person that I dated many years ago in LA. And I'm not the same person as I was dating her. I think something that we forget is that we change as people. Sometimes we grow with people, sometimes we grow away from people. And I think about even my friends. This has happened. I've had a lot of friends, and some of them we don't even talk. We just grew apart. Oftentimes we'll be very critical of ourselves about how we acted. And I'll be honest, like I said, I'm not proud of all the moments. There were moments where I was a complete asshole. There's moments when I was really bad at communication. But also deep down inside, I couldn't help the way that I felt. I was just going through a lot, and it was humanizing the situation. It doesn't excuse the behavior, but I try to understand what were some of the factors that led to that. And when I look back, it's like I was dealing with the death of my dad. I was dealing with, you know, the transition of my pharmacy career. And then I was dealing with like trying to start a business. Those things, like under high pressure situations, I was so new. And it was like a lot of it was like me not seeking therapy. I didn't know how to manage my stress, and I didn't know how to communicate to her that deep down inside, I couldn't help but feel like I was a failure, that I couldn't be the boyfriend or partner that she deserved. And I think like subconsciously I would just push her away through these avoidant actions. And as I try to humanize the situation too, I try to remember that as great as she was, when push came to shove, as she brought up how she wasn't feeling the same way anymore, for good reasons or bad reasons, she didn't want that. And if it was a good friend, I wouldn't want someone to be in a relationship with me if they didn't want to do those things anymore. I also try to remember that, you know, I was really hurt when she left. She left me when I needed the most support in my life. My mom was going through surgery. I was doing the will of my mom. I lost my biggest client at the time, and my income literally went to zero, and I was burnt out. I was still dealing with the grief of my father, and I do realize that she was probably just doing what she needed to do, what she felt was best. And this was all in the midst of COVID too. What I learned through this experience is that, you know, my ex, they're not bad people. They just couldn't go where we were going. And I found this post by millennial therapists saying good person plus bad timing equals wrong relationship. So whenever I feel sad, I always try to intentionally breathe it in. And I try to remember that that life of a family with her is dead. That idea of having kids with the cute ass dog, that's dead. It's no more. And as difficult as it is, I need to let go of that fantasy, because that's all it is. It's the life of what could have been, but it's not going to come into fruition. And letting go is probably one of the most difficult things, because at this point, when I look at the situation, I don't know what's happening with my exes. I don't follow them on social media or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure 2 or 3 years out at this point, I'm the only one that's holding on to these dead feelings, and it's time to let go. Which brings me to the other point, like, how do you actually let go? How do you actually resolve a lot of this? And bring me to my third point. Enjoy the sensation of knowing that you did everything that you could. So as I'm sitting here in the parking lot of a Whole Foods right now, and I'm reminiscing about these stories, I'm sure that you can tell there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of sadness, there's a lot of regret. And something I noticed, especially growing up in an Asian household, is that I feel a lot of guilt, and I guilt trip myself of my shortcomings. And I try to be very cognizant of that. And one of the things that I'm using right now is the self-compassion journal I bought on Amazon. And one of the exercises I love in that book is humanizing this situation. Basically means, hey, it's normal to feel this way. It's part of the human experience. Other people would probably be feeling the same way. And when I look back at my relationship, the truth is I did the best with what I knew. I grew up in a very broken family. Like, my mom and dad never slept in the same room. They would always argue. And being a kid, I always felt like I was at the root cause of like, why are mom and dad arguing? It's because of me. I grew up with the guilt of like feeling like, my dad told me this, that I was a mistake child. And I tried my best. I tried fixing myself. I tried like so many things. It's probably one of the reasons why I love personal development so much, because I always felt like there was something intrinsically wrong with me. When I look back at the situation, like when my ex was trying to break up with me, I'm the one who offered therapy. I'm the one who was like, I really want to work this out. I really want to fix it. Like, I'll like pay for therapy for both of us to do it together. We'll go couples therapy. And I'm the one who admitted all my ups for being a avoidant partner and just not making an effort and being a dick, you know? And sometimes it just feels like life is so unfair that you don't get second chances. Even like last year or something, I sent a voice message to my exes and I was like, I just want to say I'm really, really sorry for acting this way, and just apologized for how I was in the relationship. I don't know, I just can't get over that guilt. And sometimes like it's easy for us to get so fixated with the outcome that we're single, that we're alone, that we have no one to love us. That's how I feel sometimes. But I just know when I close my eyes and I breathe deep down inside, I just have this realization that regardless of the outcome, just be grateful and be confident that every situation, every experience like this is an investment into my future self. It's an investment. It's another story for me to talk about on this channel, and to not regret my decisions or beat myself up because I made an effort. And as I was preparing this video, I also found this quote by Create the Love, Mark Rose. And it says, may you attract a relationship that allows you to be yourself, but also makes a safe space for your growth and development. And sometimes that means breaking up. That means growing out of the relationship. And if there's one thing that I've learned through being single for so long, is that being alone for so long has helped me build a better relationship with myself and build a better relationship with this greater sense of purpose driving me. I try to remember all the relationships, all the women that came into my life during those times. And it was those times when I was lit up. I was just following my purpose. And these women came into my life at the most random times. And I think a lot of times we hold on to this idea that love lasts forever. There's an illusion of impermanence with the relationship. I think we forget that, relationships either end in two ways. Either we intentionally break up, or B, we die, or they die. It's helped take a lot of the pressure away of being like 30 and single still. And I felt like for so long in my life, I was like people pleasing to women. And so I think having this relationship sabbatical really helped me just align to my purpose and just be like, you know what? If I die alone, that's unfortunate. I'm sad about it. I don't want it to happen, but I know I'll feel very, very fulfilled if I just focus on my purpose. And if a woman or partner aligns with my mission, purpose, and drive, then that's great. Yep. And so, long story short, if you do feel sad, it's okay to feel sad. You shouldn't beat yourself up. But it does get easier and easier and easier the more time that you spend with yourself and notice these feelings and just really build a better relationship to understand yourself rather than just avoid it. Drink your problems away. Problems away. Work your problems away. It's not healthy to do that. So use this as an opportunity to touch base with yourself. Anyways, sorry it was so dark. Feels like sometimes this feels like a therapy session to me. So that's why I dive so deep into it, and it took me a long time to even shoot this video. Like, I must have tried shooting this video 4 or 5 times, saying a lot. I just want to say I appreciate you. And chances are if you like this video, you'll like this other video. Anyways, I will talk to you later. Take care. Peace.